Hey y'all, it's your girl Sade Cherie, and welcome back to my channel. Today we will be talking about the real Housewives of Atlanta. Now we just gonna drop right on in, and before I start, please like, share, and subscribe so I can grow my channel. You can find me on TikTok, the same handle, the Millie Life, and I'm gonna make a Facebook eventually, but I haven't. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So at the top of the episode, we pick right up where we left off. Kelly and Shamia have left the restaurant after that smackdown. Honey, WWE was about to pop off. So Kelly goes on to say, a little space is what the doctor ordered because without space, it was about to go down. Food was about to be flying, drinks was about to be thrown. And for the people who are just hearing this and did not watch last week's episode, a little recap. Shamia and Portia got into it and it got real bad. Shamia basically said, "Hey, you was talking about my mama, but let me talk about yours. And let me tell you what your mama did." And Shamia proceeds to tell everyone at the table that Portia's mother, Miss Diane, tried to sleep with Shamia's father. Yes, Lord. And that is how the moms fell out. It got real bad, as you can imagine, because most of us do not play about our mothers now. Anyway, Shamia and Kelly get back to the hotel, and Shamia is still upset, still crying, and she goes on to say, "I didn't want that to happen. I just felt so frustrated from keeping so much bottled in." Ding, ding, ding. Girl, everybody been telling you, you cannot be Miss Nice Nice all the time. You cannot placate people by being what they want you to be. If that's being happy when you're really not, if that is supporting when you don't really want to, when that is pretending like things don't bother you when they really do. That is not how you maintain relationships. That is how you maintain the box of what people expect you to be. Like you put yourself in that box and you threw away the key. And she's just very upset. Kelly's being a great friend, I think, and comforting her, basically saying hurt people hurt people. You know, a lot of people claim to be healed, but they hell. And I think she, of course, is talking about Portia. And she talks Shamia into getting up, pulling herself together, and getting out that hotel. She's like, I done came all the way to Scotland. I'm not about to be in a hotel. I'm ready to turn up. And I'm with Kelly. Like, if I go on vacation, I don't want to be held up in a hotel. I don't want to be holed up in my room, crying, snotting. No, I want to go out, see some things, eat some things, drink some things, dance a little bit. Yeah. And so they make their way to the club. As all of this is going down, all of the other ladies have already gone back to their hotel, changed clothes, put on their little dresses that come to their panty line, their big furs, their big hair, and they are already at the club. So we get to the club with them, and K. Michelle is a new version of her that we ain't seen this season, but she is feeling real nice, feeling very sisterly, very friendly, and jumps on a mic, serenades Phaedra with her song VSOP, very special. She sings that. And all the girls are dancing, having a good time. And then she tells the DJ, put on Drew's song. Drew get the mic and starts singing, "You must be delusional." And as that is happening, we see Kelly and Shamia saunter, sashay, dance their way into the club, right into the middle of the group. Portia grabbed her fur, grabbed her keys, grabbed her clutch, and skedaddled right on up out of there. And I don't know who that was with her. Side note, with all of these women being fully glammed up all the time, who pays for that? Do they fly out their own teams? Like, do they fly with their stylist? Do they fly with their makeup artists? Or do they find makeup artists who are at the location where they're going to? This just made me wonder, like, how does all that work? Because they are so glammed up, makeup on point, not a hair out of place. Anyway, back to the episode. Um, we see Drew follow Portia is basically saying, "Hey, you good? What's going on?" And Portia's like, "I can't be over there. I cannot." Meaning, hey, if I stay over there, something about to pop off. I'm gonna set it off in this, you know. And so Portia and Drew leave. Angela leaves with them, and we then see K Michelle tell the DJ to put on Shamia's song, and so Shamia starts singing. At the end of the night, we see Shamia Kelly, Pinky, Kay, all sitting, talking about how the night turned out. And Shamia's like, well, they left. Half the group left. I'm sorry. That's number one. First apology of the night. The group is like, girl, things happen. This was a good night. One for the books. And they go back to the hotel. Next day, early morning, and there's no big group breakfast that we see. Everybody's kind of, getting themselves ready at their own leisure. And we see Phaedra come check on Portia. And Portia is like, girl, it's up and stuck. Today is a new day. I'm going to try to keep the peace, keep a low profile. And Phaedra was like, I'm going to take some of the girls with me. I'm going to take Kelly, Shamia, and Cynthia on an excursion with me, and you and the other girls can do something. And so Portia's like, cool, we gonna do the spa right here on property and just relax. So we see Phaedra and those three, Cynthia, Shamia, Kelly, riding out. And on the way, Phaedra's like, all right, y'all. So I'm taking y'all to this cemetery, this famous cemetery. They say, girl, what? They tell the driver to turn around. They like, y'all ain't taking me to no cemetery. It was cute, a little funny moment. So moving past that, they get to the cemetery. And I did notice the cemetery tour guide greeted everyone. He shook Kelly's hand, Shamia's hand, Cynthia's hand. But then he reached in and gave Phaedra a hug. And I said, oh, okay. And then, you know what? I said, it might be one of those things. If you've ever planned a trip or a group activity and you are the point person, the person that you're corresponding with probably has a better sense of who you are. And it might be one of those things like, oh, okay, you're Phaedra. Let me go ahead and, be kind and greet you with a little more warmth because you're the one who's coordinated everything. You're the one paying for everything. And so it could be just that, but they got very chummy. Now they go through the cemetery. He gives them the spiel on the history of the cemetery, very spooky things. Phaedra seems to already know quite a bit about the history there, but then he takes them in this little locked, it had two gates, locked section of the cemetery where it looked like a little cave or something. And he basically said, legend has it that it's haunted. And a lot of people hear things or feel like heavy spirits in there. And so Shamia and Kelly was like, not today, not with the God I serve. So they didn't go in. Cynthia and Phaedra went in. And so while Phaedra and Cynthia are inside the cave, or whatever you want to call it, because it wasn't really a mausoleum. I don't know what it was called. Shamia and Kelly are talking about last night. And so Shamia's like, I hate that I ruined the trip. I know she and I need to have a conversation. And I think Kelly was like, well, you don't have to have a conversation if, you don't want to have a conversation. And at this point, Shamia has apologized twice. In the car on the ride there, she apologized to Cynthia and Phaedra for ruining the night and tries to explain, her feelings and what she was feeling. Apology number two. Now, on the other side of things with PNM back at the ranch, we see all the girls get all dolled up just to walk around that dang property. Did y'all know y'all was staying there? I don't think they knew they were not going outside the house. So they following Portia. I would have been mad. Oh my God, I would have been so mad. If I got all dressed up and nowhere to go and you done brought me outside to look around this property, girl, no. Now they followed her around this dang on property. And they see this little standalone sauna and literally it looked like a little jacuzzi the size of maybe like a large kiddie pool. And while Portia go take her shoe off and put her foot in the water to see how it feels. Needless to say, they didn't do anything. They just go back in the house, grab some food, sit down and talk. So when they sit down and talk, of course, last night subject comes up. But before that comes up, Kay and Drew have a little bonding moment. And Drew was like, "Oh, so Kay, I am so surprised you told the DJ to put my song on." And so Kay was like, "You know what? I like to support. I know we didn't start off on the best foot, but I'm a supporter of people. And I just thought, it was time." And so that was a cute little moment, which tells us Kay Michelle was on some bull. There was no reason to come in fighting with Drew because we still don't know who the plot and the scheme was about. Ridiculous. Anyway, so then Portia comes down and sits next to Drew and they start talking about last night. And so Portia basically said her intent was to be cool with Shamia. And that's a lie. I personally don't believe that. I think she was trying not to get into it. So maybe truth in that. I don't think she really wanted to hit the nail on the head and really get into it the way they did on the show. But I don't think she ever had any real intentions of reconciling their friendship in a real way. And I think that's part of the problem. I think Portia is on a reality show. Shamia is living in reality. And those are not the same. Those are not the same. And the sooner Shamia recognizes that, I think the sooner her life on these shows will be. Now, anyway, Portia calls Phaedra and is like, "Hey, let me know before y'all get back at the house." So she tells the girls that she's with, this is what we're going to do for Phaedra's birthday dinner. There's like this hidden room in the castle, and it has lots of artifacts and is very just regal, if you will. And so she has a dinner planned there. So at the end of the night, all the girls get dressed up, glammed up, and they each have it looks like a little scarf. I don't know what it's called. I'm sure it's not a scarf, but some sort of plaid scarf that they are gifted. And I feel like it's probably what Portia bought them when they went to that museum the other day on the last episode. So anyway, they all get dressed. They all go to a sitting room and are chit-chatting and oohing and awing over each other's dresses. The last two to come out, I believe, are Kelly and Shamia. And everyone is waiting on Portia. Now, or no, yeah. And now, again, Portia and Shamia have not had a conversation since that fallout. Have not even really seen each other since the prior night. And everybody looks great. Portia comes out in this tiny, when I say skin tight, it looked like Playtex dress. Very sexy with like this keyhole cutout. Bopping around. Hey y'all. Hey y'all. Comes right by Shamia. And it's like, "Oh, excuse me." When I say Portia is a menace to society, she paid Shamia dust. booty dust, if you will, because her booty was right in Shamia's face. And it's like, all right, y'all, let's go to the place. Everybody look good in her Portia way. And Shamia just looked disgusted, but trying to play it off at this point. No fireworks. They go to the hall, the little hidden room where the dinner is supposed to be held, and what is held. And Phaedra comes in and is surprised and thankful. They all sit down for dinner. And Portia presents Phaedra with this plaque where she has, I guess, called some people in Scotland and gotten Phaedra to be named Lady Glen, which is a proclamation that she is a woman of high honor, I believe. That's what it is. And so, in the midst of bestowing this gift onto Phaedra, Portia gives a speech that basically says, hey, you've always been there for me. I know our relationship has not always been great. We've been through some tough times, but you've always held me down, never changed up. Literally showing, throwing shots at Shamia. Of course, they got the camera on Shamia. Again, what can she do at this point? But anyway, everybody, says happy birthday to Phaedra. She loves a gift. And then we see them all go around the table and start talking about what they did today. And Phaedra tells them about the cemetery. And then K. Michelle interjects and is like, y'all ain't ever died before, which I feel like was a very hard segue into the conversation about how she almost died due to her implants. Of course, she started crying and then tells everybody how she almost died due to the butt surgeries. And then talks about how her mom, had to watch her go through that and was fearful that she might die. And then that brought up some hard memories for Angela, who lost her mom, and also Drew, who lost her dad. And so Angela steps away from the table. Drew steps away from the table. Portia leaves to check on Drew. While they're all gone, Shamia brings up last night again and apologizes yet again. And in the midst of this, they come back and Portia's like, oh, I was hoping to come back to some laughter. And no, that didn't happen. The conversation kind of dies down and they switch subjects yet again. The part that I missed that I wanted to save for last was the conversation Portia had with her sister during the day before they went to the spa outside in the backyard. Portia called her sister Lauren and is downloading Lauren on everything that happened last night. And Lauren, of course, is like all of us, like, oh my God, why would she bring that up? Like, why? And Portia says, hey, we were cool and, everything was going fine with Shamia. I had no intentions of, fighting with her until she brought up my daughter. Now, the way Portia tells us is that she, meaning Shamia, was trying to flex on Portia by using her daughter, Pilar. Apparently, Shamia had a conversation with Cynthia where Cynthia told the conversation back to Portia. In this conversation, Shamia said, well, I hate, what's happening to me and Portia, but, I'm still happy that I have access to Pilar. And Gerald is still friends with Dennis. And so now we understand where the frustration comes from because Cynthia carried that bone back. And Portia buried that bone and said, no, you will not have access to my daughter. I see what you're trying to do and you ain't doing it. Not on my watch. That explains why, part of the reason why Shamia was so frustrated. So as she's telling her sister, Portia's recounting this to Lauren. Lauren is like, what, man? And then she goes on to tell Lauren what Shamia said about Miss Diane. And she's like, why would my mama ever do that? Her daddy ain't never had no teeth. I said, Portia, no, she wrote. And Lauren was like, made a great point. This is somebody who knows you well. Both of you guys have nuclear bombs, meaning you have personal, sensitive information about each other that can destroy one another. So why would you go ahead and explode? You know, when it's mutual destruction at this point. Like we both on this show, we both want to, survive and thrive. Why would you start this? Great point. And unfortunately, Shamia is just tired. She was at her wit's end, and some things had to change. Anyway, at the end of this conversation, we see Portia make a statement that says, "Are you trying to destiny swap with a?" And to me, this is very telling, and I think it's telling in Shamia's favor. Shamia said Portia never wanted her on this show. Using the phrase, "Are you trying to destiny swap with me?" gives light to me to the possibility that Shamia was right. Portia is insecure about Shamia being on this show. Because why would you mention destiny swapping? And for people who don't know what destiny swapping is, it's when someone in your life or comes into your life, they do everything you do. They follow behind your footsteps in an effort and in hopes of basically taking over your life. So could that be your job, your husband, your girlfriend, your wife, your social capital, whatever you got going on, they want it. And they are studying you, trying to find ways to take it. And so to me, that is almost Portia's admission that I'm not comfortable with Shamia being on this show. I don't want her here. Um, I believe Shamia. I do. And unfortunately, she was wrong for throwing Miss Diane out like that. Anybody would be mad. It would be up and stuck with anybody after that. But tell me what y'all think. That was the end of the episode. We'll get into the next episode next week. And once again, I'm your girl, Sade Cherie. Like, share, subscribe.